Hey, it's Andrew here. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about Social Security changes, the next two stimulus packages, and daily news updates as well. President Biden just gave Republicans a deadline to get the next stimulus package done. So let's discuss the details and how this might affect Social Security changes and the chance to have a fourth round of stimulus checks. But before we get into it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I also have a second channel, so if you could do me a huge favor, click on the link that's in the description of this video. Go ahead and subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to be giving away a stimulus check on that channel just as a thank you for supporting my work. Now, at this point, most of you know that we have two stimulus packages coming this year, the infrastructure bill and then the American Family Plan. And the majority of stimulus will be in the American Family Plan, but this first bill has some things for seniors as well. It includes funding for home health care for seniors and those who are disabled, as well as more funding for affordable housing as well. But mainly, we want to get this first stimulus package done so we can then move on to the American Family Plan, which we do expect to have a lot more direct stimulus. Of course, that monthly stimulus check payment for families. We're hoping it might include Social Security changes and potentially that monthly Social Security stimulus as well. So we want this first package done quickly, but it's also going to be a signal as to whether or not Democrats will be able to unite to even get the second stimulus package done. And on your screen, you'll see Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, two moderate Democrats who are basically standing in the way of getting stimulus done. Now, these two basically want Democrats to work with Republicans to get a bipartisan bill done, and this is why currently Joe Biden continues to negotiate with Republicans. Now, don't get me wrong, bipartisanship is a good thing, and we should be able to work on a bipartisan level. But quite frankly, the people need more stimulus. Seniors were promised by Joe Biden larger Social Security benefits. He even promised them a $200 per month stimulus boost, and he still has not delivered. So we need Democrats to unite, come together, and get this done as quickly as possible. But with that said, currently, because of Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, Democrats continue to negotiate with Republicans. However, they have given Republicans a hard deadline, and they said that if they don't see negotiations heading in the right direction by June 7th, they're probably going to go ahead and move forward with budget reconciliation. But let's take a look and see what Democrats had to say. Negotiations are being led by Pete Buttigieg, who is the transportation secretary. So, of course, it makes sense that he is leading the negotiations on the infrastructure package. So let's take a look, see what he had to say about negotiations, where things stand today. Then afterwards, we'll discuss what this might mean for the current stimulus package, the next American Families Plan package, and potentially even Social Security changes as well.
President Biden started at $2.3 trillion in his proposal. Republicans started at about $600 billion. Now President Biden has gone down to $1.7 trillion. Republicans say they're at nearly $1 trillion over 8 years. You still want more money for rail, and you still can't agree on how to pay for it. When you and I talked on the show 6 weeks ago about it, you said the president wanted major action by Memorial Day. So what's next? Is the White House going to make another counteroffer? What's the plan?
Yeah, so this week Congress is out of Washington, but it's very much going to be a work week for us and for the conversations that are ongoing with Congress. By the time that they return, which is June 7th, just a week from tomorrow, we need a clear direction. Certainly encouraging to see the healthy conversations that have happened over the last days and weeks. But the president keeps saying inaction is not an option, and time is not unlimited here. The American people expect us to do something. They expect us to deliver, and it's my hope that these continued conversations, really over these next few days, will be productive and will lead to that clear direction.
So there seems to be a disagreement between what President Biden and agreed to with Republican senators and what his staff is now saying. Key Republican negotiator, Senator Shelley Moore Capito, a Republican from West Virginia, she says, and other senators who are in the room with her agree, that President Biden suggested he's willing to settle around $1 trillion, and it didn't matter to him if it was $1 trillion over 5 years or $1 trillion over 8 years. Now, I understand the devil's in the details in terms of how to pay for it, the timeline, et cetera. As an overall principle, is that correct? President Biden is willing to accept a $1 trillion price tag, and it doesn't matter to him if it's over 5 or 8 years?
Well, the president's counteroffer was a $1.7 trillion package. And again, that represents coming off our original view by $500 billion. It is encouraging to see Republicans talking about getting to the neighborhood of $1 trillion. Of course, when you start trying to make it apples to apples, comparing what would have been spent anyway, looking at the categories, that's where the devil really is in the details. And those are the things that we're continuing to discuss with them. But I'll say, we've been in these discussions in good faith, and there have been really healthy negotiations of the kind that I think people were starting to wonder whether that's even possible in Washington anymore. This is exactly what happens in those negotiations. Do the categories line up? Do the numbers line up? Are we talking about the same thing? And can we get to an overlap? We're not there yet. There's definitely a lot of difference in our views, but it's been encouraging to see the movement.
So just to translate for folks out there who aren't staying up to speed on every single one of these details, when Secretary Buttigieg talks about the money that would have been spent otherwise, he's talking about infrastructure and transportation money that's just automatic in the budget. And the suggestion has been made by Democrats that the $1 trillion or almost $1 trillion counterproposal the Republicans have made over 8 years is really only a couple $100 billion more than what automatically would have been spent, right? I'm hearing you correctly. I believe that that's the correct assessment. So my question is, do you think?
Yeah, exactly.
Does that mean that they're negotiating in bad faith?
No, that's the thing. I mean, we've been very above board when we're in these conversations. The charts are out, the numbers are there, and obviously there are a lot of different ways to talk about the same thing. The fact that they philosophically seem to agree that trillion-dollar investments are the kind of thing we need to be doing right now, that's encouraging. But we aren't exactly aligned. In fact, there's a lot of daylight here, especially because things that we consider very important, from making sure that we're sparking an electric vehicle revolution and that it happens in the U.S. with American workers on American soil, to the president's commitment to make sure that we get rid of 100% of lead pipes in this country. We didn't see as much of that in the counter proposal. But again, that's how a negotiation works. These are exactly the kinds of things we're talking through over the next few days. I just want to emphasize we really are talking about the next few days, because by the time Congress is back in Washington, I think those members of Congress, and frankly the American people, and all of us in the administration, expect to have a clear direction.
So some Democratic lawmakers who, and I'm not just talking about the Bernie Sanders types who are very skeptical of Republicans to begin with, even though Sanders does have a record of bipartisan work, but some people who make a tradition of it, who normally cut deals, they say, you know what, Buttigieg, you've negotiated enough. The Republican counterproposal isn't much more than the U.S. would have spent anyway. You're wasting your time. Take a listen.
It's an old expression, fish or cut bait. I think we're getting to that moment.
We hope to move forward with Republicans, but we're not going to let them saying no stand in our way.
But at some point, we have to move forward.
Casey, Schumer, Durbin, these are people who generally would be in favor of negotiating. Are you basically saying that in the next week, if there isn't an agreement, Democrats are going to go it alone?
I think we are getting pretty close to a fish or cut bait moment, but I'll tell you that on the fishing side of things, the negotiations have been healthy. There's a lot of conversations going on among members of Congress who have come forward with a lot of different ideas, in addition to the discussions that we've had with the group led by Senator Capito. So we believe in this process, but also very much agree that this can't go on forever.
So Democrats starting to sound a lot like they did with the third stimulus check, right? Do you remember when Schumer said, we're going to try and work with the Republicans, but we're not going to wait for months. We're going to get this done with or without Republicans. And other Democrats are following suit as well. So things are starting to develop, and Democrats do seem to be moving in the direction of starting budget reconciliation soon. Specifically, Buttigieg said that by June 7th, if Republicans don't seem to be working towards an actual deal, they're going to go ahead and move towards budget reconciliation. Now, again, can President Biden get Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema on board? Now, personally, if these two don't get on board with stimulus and don't get on board with Social Security changes, honestly, We need to vote these people out. And guys, let me know in the comments if you agree. Now, with that said, I understand that these two come from very moderate states and they're just trying to represent their constituents and kind of thread the needle, try and approve stimulus, but at the same time show their state that they're trying to work with Republicans as well. But guys, Republicans want to remove the funding for senior care from the infrastructure plan, as well as the funding for affordable housing as well. They also want to remove the funding for electric vehicle development. A lot of people who watch my channel don't care too much about that, but honestly, it would be really good for the environment as well. They're also disagreeing on taxes. Biden wants to increase taxes on corporations to pay for this. Republicans just want to reuse money from the last stimulus package, as well as increase the gas tax and add more tollways to pay for this. So every American would be forced to pay for this, the majority of which would be the middle class instead of rich corporations. So a lot of big sticking points here. And to be quite honest, it really doesn't look like Democrats are going to come to a deal with Republicans. It almost feels like political theater, where Joe Biden is just doing this to appease moderate Democrats like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, with the expectation that they'll negotiate for a couple of months and then they'll move on to budget reconciliation anyway. Now, as far as a potential fourth round of stimulus checks and an increase in Social Security benefits, how will this current negotiation affect that? Well, the biggest thing here is we're going to see how united Democrats are. If Democrats can unite and use the 50 votes in the Senate to get this package done, that's going to be a really good signal to getting the next stimulus package done, which could include Social Security benefits, will include monthly payments for families, and could also potentially include monthly stimulus payments for Social Security benefits as well. And as far as that fourth round of stimulus check, I've said it in my videos multiple times. Democrats used the third stimulus check to win the Senate runoff elections in Georgia. We also now have the midterm elections coming up in 2022, and I think Democrats are going to use stimulus checks to try and hold on to their Senate seats in 2022 as well, because it worked for them in Georgia previously. So in my opinion, I do think Democrats will unite and get the fourth stimulus check done, but not until 2022, because at that point it's going to help them win that re-election, which would help them maintain control of the Senate and the House, which would be a good thing in regards to then even further getting more stimulus done as well. But guys, with that said, Democrats continue to negotiate with Republicans. Joe Biden is meeting with Republicans this week, giving them a few more days, and then we do expect Democrats to move forward with budget reconciliation. So don't forget to subscribe, guys. I will keep you updated. We expect to have a lot of news coming out in regards to Social Security changes, the next two stimulus packages, and daily news updates as well. Remember, President Biden promised to increase Social Security benefits with a larger COLA increase, larger monthly benefits for widows, for those who are on benefits for 20 years or more, and at least 125% of the poverty level, which would equal $200 to $300 more per month for the average person who's on Social Security. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a great day out there, and until the next video, take care and have a great day.